Welcome to another edition of Octagons, Circles, and Squares, an NBC Sports podcast covering the cage, the mat, and the ring. I'm your host, Steven D'Agostino, and we have yet another special edition of the show, this time talking with the women's freestyle Olympic team, members of the squad coming through to chat with us about their preparations for the Paris Games. But first, get your day started with Bet the Edge. Jay Croucher and Drew Dinzig have all your betting needs covered, including how to win some extra cash during the Olympics. New episodes drop every weekday at 6 a.m. Eastern. Whether you're targeting spreads and totals, circling player props, or looking for value in futures markets, they have it all. Now let's get to the interviews. Cool. We'll get started here, Sarah. Just catch us up since trials. You know, is another great performance from you to punch your ticket to the Olympics. How's training been going on the mat, but also how is, whether celebrating or spending time with family, and also reception within the wrestling community as well since then?
Yeah, no, it's been really good. I feel like, I wanted to make a lot of changes from last Olympics to this one, and they're scary changes to make because they were kind of like stepping into more intuitiveness, more humanness, and less like discipline, grindy wrestling training. And that feels so nice and easy to do. So it's so scary to just like trust myself. But it's been really good. And like having my brother as my training partner has helped that a lot. And we've just been able to kind of like find a good rhythm and trust the things that I'm choosing to do. And so, yeah, it's added a lot of fun to it all, as stressful as this can all be. I think that's important. So, but that's been really good. Family has been definitely the key piece there.
I'm glad you mentioned Drew. I mean, we were at trials and we had like the back warm-up camera, and we saw you like warming up with your brother, which is like super unique, I think, and in a really cool aspect of your background. Just dive in a little deeper, what your relationship with Drew and what he's meant to you on this journey that you've had, and the fact that you get to share it with your brother as you head to another Olympics.
Yeah, it's so cool. Like, this kid is like the light of the earth, honestly. He is so much fun, and I needed that. I'm like very serious in training. And I just wanted to have that piece that would kind of pull me out of that, this playfulness, this creativity that is so important, that really frees me up in my wrestling. And he's brought that. And then not to mention, he's just a high level wrestler himself. So he's bringing a technical aspect as well, a lot of wisdom to the mat. But really, he's just somebody I know I can always trust. Somebody's in my corner, believes in me. He's just like symbol of like all of my values, you know what I mean? Kind of puts everything into perspective. Like, yes, there's medals we want to win, and this is serious and this is hard. But at the end of the day, here I am with my brother getting to chase this huge dream. We're going to be at the Olympics together. Like, it's just, every time I have a hard practice, he's like, dude, I don't even care about this medal. Like, we get to do this together. This is like such an amazing experience. So that's just been so lucky. I really love that. And then, it also offers some like just making our relationship so much stronger, because I thought it was going to be this thing where it's like, oh, he comes in and we're going to have all this fun. But then it's like, I can get kind of serious, very cranky and like snappy. And I'm like, oh my gosh, snapping at my brother, and we'll kind of bicker and get into things like that. But that's just kind of made us a lot closer in ways that, I don't think we ever would have had we not trained for something so intense like this before. So it's been really cool, and God bless him for dealing with my craziness.
You meant, yeah, your brother also I'm sure a blast to be around, but a blast to watch wrestle. I remember him in his Chippewa days and Penn State days. Really funky, super fun to watch. So I know he's a big asset. Along those lines, going into your second games here, what other kind of things are you taking with you from that first time around that you may have kept or changed to push you higher up on the medal stand for Tokyo or for Paris in your second games?
That's a good question. I feel like a lot is kind of this freeness that I've allowed myself to step into. Very value-driven practice now instead of results-driven. I just felt like going into Tokyo Olympics, there was a lot of good. I was really excited about it. But I didn't feel like a human being. I felt like a machine. And that's cool and all, except I just felt so disconnected from myself. And I think that's really important when you step on the mat. But in sports, a lot of times we value that like machine mentality. And ultimately, I just don't think it served me the way I needed to. It kind of made me a little tense and tight. And I think that's kind of why I lost in the semifinals. So just having that experience, it's been a huge teacher. It's given me a lot of lessons. It's taken me many years to implement, but so many lessons. And I feel like now I can come into this games and just understand and connect to that human aspect of me, like understand my flaws and embrace my strengths and kind of step into the values that are really important to me. And I just feel like that opens up so many doors and really makes this stage an opportunity to like display all of that. And I don't think I ever would have got there had I not experienced Tokyo Olympics.
That's some pretty awesome perspective. And like you said, I think, probably yields the fact that you've been through games already and now you have that. There's a few new faces on the team, especially some very young ones. Have they come to you at all for any kind of advice or guidance on things like that now that you're one of the veterans on the squad this time around?
No, those girls got it locked in. They don't need me. You know what? No, they have. It's really cool to watch them train and step into such a the highest level tournament they can at such a young age. Because when I was their age, there was no way I had the confidence and wisdom to make some of these decisions. And they're so, they have that locked in. They trust their training. They know what they're doing. And it's so refreshing to see because I feel like my generation of athletes were just kind of grew up in a way where we didn't really trust ourselves. And when we got to this point, it was really difficult that's kind of important to have, but to see the younger generation coming up and, they know when they need to rest, they know when they need to push, they know where they want to work. It's really, really cool to see and to kind of all work together now. I think having, us doing that, the veterans doing that, and then the younger girls, we can all kind of feed that together. And it really has made for an intuitive, genuine training cycle and team. It kind of supports everybody, we all have confidence in what we're doing.
It's really funny that you answered that way because I asked the same thing to Kayla and she also kind of laughed and she's like, "Are you kidding me? These girls are monsters. They don't need anything from us."
Good.
Which,
they don't need us.
No, it's and so, but that's super interesting because back in Rio, the depth wasn't there in the women's wrestling game as much, and now we're talking about kids coming up in their early 20s and they're like world beaters. How has women's wrestling grown so much so quickly, and what things do you think need to continue to ensure that it continues to push even further than it has?
I mean, wrestling's just fun. So I know the second somebody tries it, we just need to get people to try it and feel comfortable to step in the mat room. Once wrestling's in your blood and it doesn't take long, you're not just about it, you're obsessed. I've never met somebody who's just casually came into wrestling. Almost everybody, even if they're doing it for a short amount of time, just falls so in love with it. And it's because it's an amazing sport, amazing people in the sport. So I think we need to just keep offering opportunities for women. There's so much going on that's feeding that. Bring your friends to practice. Let's make it playful. Let's just get them in the room. These college programs are starting up, I think, as more and more opportunities continue academically for girls to also wrestle. That will be terrific. I think we need to get some really great coaches in there, and I'm sure we will. As my generation finishes up and can come back into the coaching world, I think that's just going to feed that so much because now these girls have names they're familiar with that they grew up watching. Coming back into the coaching, they want to wrestle for those people. It's like Clarissa Chun, things like that. I would love to go back to college and wrestle for her. So I think we're right on the right track. It's really, really cool to see.
You mentioned I said 10 years ago the depth wasn't there. I think one pivotal moment was that 16 Olympics seemed to be a real turning point for women's wrestling, and a big part of that was Helen's win over Sayori Yoshida. This Japan-US rivalry has kind of been pivotal and helped grow in the sport in this country. Where do you see the rivalry now? Do you think it's kind of overhyped? Is it important? And then where's the gap now between the US and Japan heading into Paris?
Yeah, I don't think it's overhyped. I mean, Japan definitely, they're good. You can't deny that. They've won everything. So us going up against them, it's definitely, that's going to be a fight. It's going to be a dogfight for sure. I feel like we have a team put together that is finally not stepping on the mat that and sees that singlet and it's, it affects them. I think we have like an older team, a group of older girls who have wrestled a lot of Japanese, have been in this a lot. We've had our ups, we've had our downs. There's no surprises in that end. And then the younger girls who are just, they're world champions and age group stuff. So they've had to already go through those punches as well. And that's just super powerful. I think, at the Olympic Games, it's such a mental thing. And so I know from a technical standpoint, from an effort standpoint, we're there. And so bridging that mental gap that we can actually put all of this together and put that package out on the mat, I absolutely believe in us. And I'm just really excited. I'm here for the hype. Let's hype up the rivalry. I think it feeds me.
Yeah, and you have if I could, correct me if I'm wrong, but Yui Sasaki at 50 kg is in that weight class, so a possible big tilt there. Has that been circled on your calendar? Is the photo in the mirror leading up to this? How excited are you for a potential matchup with Sasaki?
I would absolutely love it. I mean, first of all, just to wrestle somebody of that caliber, that only brings more out of myself. I just kind of think of this idea of like, wrestling super high level opponents just brings you to a higher level as well. And I would just love that I know she would bring the best out of me, and I believe I could bring the best out of her, and we would just put on a really, really cool display of wrestling. So yeah, it's exciting. She's definitely been in my mind, and there's, things I focus on and work specifically towards her. But on the same end of that, there's a lot of wrestling that has to happen, and there's never too much on one person, or, I'm kind of looking at the field and weighing everybody out. But obviously, to wrestle somebody like that, this is what I'm here for.
Well, thank you, Kayla, for helping us out and chatting here for a little bit. Just to start us off, catch us up since trials. I mean, awesome trials for you. What's training been like since then? What's the reception been like, not just with your family, but also within Team USA and within the wrestling community since you got your hand raised over there at Penn State?
I mean, it's just kind of business as usual. Same thing. We knew this was the plan. The plan was to make the team and to continue training for Paris. So that's kind of all we've been doing. The focus hasn't shifted. We knew the plan going in. So just doing the work. And yeah, I mean, great support from my family and friends. And, as I'm gone from home all the time for camps here, training opportunities there, competition, my girlfriend is so great and very selfless about, supporting me being gone and missing out on time with me. And, she has to hold down the fort and take care of our zoo. We have 4 animals, so she's got to do that by herself. And so it's been great though. It's been pretty easy. It's the work, it's the job. It's what we what we signed up for. So nothing crazy.
One of 3 women back from Tokyo, so you're one of the veterans on the squad, which you're alluding to a lot. That you've been through this, you felt that. Part of that was, I think, the qualification process with you is through the Pan Am. So you had like the Pan Am wrestle off, the qualifier, and the actual Pan Ams, which seems like just a gauntlet. What was that process like? And the fact that you had done that already, did that make that easier? And has that made this whole process easier for you?
I don't know if that process could ever be considered easy. Going through the Pan Am Olympic qualifier is honestly like the most stressful tournament ever, because you're not just wrestling for yourself. It's not the same as a Pan Am Championships, even though it's similar opponents, right? And it's not just for you, it's for the country, because you're not on the team already. You're qualifying the weight. So it's a lot of pressure, a lot of stress and anxiety going into that. Hopefully, going into LA the year before, all 6 weights can be qualified at the World Championships, and nobody has to go through that stress because it's rough. But I do think going through it in 2020 helped me a lot, because I knew what I was getting into. I knew the stress and the feel of it, of just like, there's no other tournament where there's that much pressure. Even comparing it to a World Championships or an Olympics, you're wrestling for yourself, and it's like, it's huge and it's awesome and it's great and big, but it's not like, it's kind of definite if you don't qualify the weight there. I mean, you do have another chance, but that's making your life really stressful. So the first half of the year was jam-packed with, the qualifier having to I had to wrestle Macy Kilty again in a best 2 out of 3. And those are always fun. And then going in to the actual Pan Am Championships to solidify my seed for the Pan Am Olympic qualifier. So it was just a lot of wrestling, a lot of competing, but I mean, I loved it. But yeah, don't recommend going that route. If we can get the job done earlier on and qualify the weight, like let's do that next time.
So you took that experience with you. You've been through it twice. Now we're here heading into Paris. How about specifically from the Tokyo Games? I know it's a little different with like no friends and family and stuff. And you talked a little bit about having family there this time, but what lessons are you taking with you from Tokyo to push you further along this time in Paris?
So it is different socially, the energy, all of that. So that's going to be a new thing that I have to figure out day by day. That's going to be a minute by minute thing where I have to make adjustments. But I think just generally looking at the Olympics, last quad, it was just kind of like there's so much pressure on it. And it's like, wow, I'm wrestling in the freaking Olympics, which is huge, right? But it's the same thing I do every single day. It's the same thing I've done, just about every single month. I go out and I compete, and it's 6 minutes at a time. You're not wrestling the semifinals when you're in the quarterfinals. You're not wrestling the finals when you're in the qualifying rounds. Like you're wrestling 6 minutes for 6 minutes. And I think that's the biggest lesson that I learned in Tokyo is I made the moment so much bigger than it is. It's just wrestling, and it's something I love to do. I'm good at doing it. And so I just need to focus on that versus what is going on around me. Like we're on a mat, the mat's the same size, and like I'm doing the same thing. And if I'm just free and enjoying myself and flowing, it's going to be dangerous for everybody else. So that's the biggest lesson.
Like I said, one of 3 women on the team that are vets. We also have some new faces, including 2 very young wrestlers in Blades and Elor. Have you shared any advice with them on this stuff you're talking about with Tokyo, and have they come to you looking for kind of any guidance as they prepare for their first games to help Team USA a little more here?
I mean, as young as they are, they're not rookies. Amit's world champion. Kennedy is a world champion at age level. So they know what to expect. Whenever we talk and we have meetings and we have other people, Adeline made a presentation for us about what to expect at the games and things we can like look out for and change or like focus on to help the process. I shared a little bit of my experience, and for me, it was like, okay, maybe I turn off or I like make a fake social media account where I can just follow, funny cat videos or memes and things like that versus all of the sports, because the more you do that, then the more like pressure you're putting on yourself. So little things like that, but they're veterans. Amit's been on the stage, Kennedy's been on the stage, Dom is a world champion, and she was at the games last squad as a training partner, so she's seen it firsthand. So as much as myself, Sarah, and Helen are like the veterans, like everyone is meant to be here. Everyone has been through this before, even if it didn't have the Olympic rings attached to it. And it was, with UWW at the World Championships, like we all know what we're going into.
It's pretty wild to hear you describe USA women's wrestling as just loaded, right? It's almost like a superstar NBA team, which a decade ago, these conversations weren't happening. Like women's wrestling has grown so much. As you that's been in the sport for so long, and what things have changed in women's wrestling that have made it grown this much and made it this much better? And then what still needs to happen to push it even further, in your opinion?
I mean, I think just generally the support has changed. We have so much more support financially, right? Being able to train and not have to worry about having another job or, catching a shift here, doing this, we can just focus on training. And I think that's huge. I think the training opportunities have also improved. Getting to be, coached by Lee Pritz. He's a D1 college coach, and he's like my personal coach. He's making a schedule for me and working with me, like hands-on, that's incredible. And just a few years ago when I was living in Iowa, I got to work with the brands, right? Like Tom and Terry brands, like Olympic legends. So that's just so cool that we have access to that now. And I think we just need to improve that. We need more opportunities and more options for us to train well, have great coaches, I think right now we're spread out. So I struggle. My biggest struggle is training partners. So I have to come up to, Colorado or Iowa or somewhere to get training partners. I got to come up to Colorado if I want Sarah Hildebrandt to beat me up. I don't have her in my backyard. So yeah, I think that's where we can grow, is to continue with that support, but then also like build the numbers, if that makes sense.
A lot of coaches, and speaking to Elor previously, credit that 2016 Olympics when Helen beat Sarah Yoshida as kind of this powder keg moment in the sport. With that said, the gap between the U.S. and Japan has kind of closed every year since then, and here we are in Paris. Where, in your opinion, where's this rivalry at now, and where's the gap, and what do you guys need to do to outmedal Japan in Paris in less than a month?
I mean, there's no denying that they have been just dominant. Every single weight, they've just kind of controlled. But I do think we have a really good team. It's not even just like us versus them. We're not dueling them. It's not like a college duel or a World Cup duel, In my weight, like depending on how the bracket falls, Japan's probably going to be on the other side. She's going to have to make her way through, and I'm going to have to make my way through Tina Bekova, right? Returning Olympic silver medalist and a world champ. So it's like there are a lot of other pieces to this puzzle. And I think as long as we're just, showing up and doing what we do best, like if we go head to head, like, yeah, Yui's great, but I am so excited for that Yui-Sarah match. I'm so excited to see that. That's going to be electric for everybody. And I mean, Sarah's a dog, right? In my weight, I'm thinking it'll be opposite side. Like the Japanese girl will be on the opposite side, and I'm planning on making it through, and I'm assuming she'll make it through as well. And, I'm planning on taking her out, whoever's in front of me. And I think that's one thing that we've done growing up as cadet and juniors. We know how great the Japanese teams are traditionally. And so we wrestle the singlet. We're wrestling, this Japanese athlete versus just this person, just this singlet. I'm competing against red or blue, and that's what it needs to be. We can't give them that like, we have to respect them, but we kind of have feared them in the past, and I think that's the biggest thing. Helen went in there in 2016, and she didn't care. She didn't care how many Olympic or world medals or how long her winning streak was or how few losses she had given in her career. She went in and she took care of business, and that's, I think, what we need to do. Doesn't matter who it is, what country. We just gotta do the thing.
All right, Amit. Well, yeah, awesome stuff as always. I feel like last time we talked around this year, you were winning triple crowns and you were world champion, and now you are heading to your first Olympics. So just catch us up since trials. How's training been going on the mat? How's life outside of practice? How's the reception been in the wrestling community as you head to Paris?
Oh my gosh, I mean, the feedback from the wrestling community has been amazing. I've received so many nice, kind messages. I was just walking in my hometown, and I've been bumping into people on the street that recognize me and wish me good luck at the Olympics. It's been incredible. Training has been going well. I've been able to train a lot at home in California, which has been wonderful for me because over the years I've been traveling so much, I've been barely at home. So to be able to make something work at home has been great. And my coach, Sarah, she lives in Sacramento. I live in Walnut Creek, California, so relatively close. And USA Wrestling has been amazing. They have been able to help some girls fly out and train with me there in California. So we've been making it work, and things have been going well. I feel good.
Last time we had spoke, you were still kind of in between what weight class to go to for trials between 72 and 68. And, obviously now you're at 68. How has the weight cut been? And do you feel like you've kind of fit into this weight class now, or is it still, not super easy to make the cut for that weight class?
So unfortunately, it's still been a little bit of a challenge. I've had some bad cuts, some a little bit better, but I've been working really hard with multiple nutritionists, and I've been getting a lot of help as far as preparing to the best of my abilities for the Olympics, and everything's been going smoothly. So I really hope that I can put my very best version out there in Paris.
Last time we spoke, you had mentioned a bunch of your heroes, and one of the names that on the top of that list was Helen Maroulis, and you mentioned specifically that 16 Olympics. Now that you're officially an Olympian, how cool is it to know that you're going to be walking the parade with your hero standing next to you?
Oh my gosh, it's incredible. I mean, just thinking about it gives me chills. I first officially met her in 2016 when she was training for the Rio Olympics. And then a few months later, she went and she won the first gold in the history of women's wrestling for the U.S. And since then, I've been just a huge fan. She's been a big role model for me. And we've gotten to be on 2 senior world teams together. But the Olympics is different. The Olympics has been my dream forever. So to be on the same team as her is really, really special for me.
Have you leaned on her at all, or maybe Sarah or Kayla, like some of the veterans, for any advice or anything heading into this at all?
Yeah, I've leaned on quite a few of the women around me. I've gotten a lot of help and support from, of course, my coach Sarah. Helen has so much experience and she's so knowledgeable. I also got to train a lot with Adeline before the 2023 World Championships because she was living out in Southern California, and I've learned so much just from working with her and being around her too. So it's really cool that we have a team with some very experienced wrestlers so that us younger girls can also learn from their experience.
It's really fun. So we asked Kayla and Sarah, hey, has Amit asked for any advice or blades? And they're like, why would they ask us for advice? They're world beaters already. They're awesome. And so they're just very, very proud of you guys, of the young wrestlers. And I guess, where does that confidence come from in you guys, knowing that, you're good on this team and you're making an immediate impact on the world stage at such a young age?
I think that we've had access to a lot of amazing opportunities and training from a very young age in wrestling. I think both of us have a relatively similar story as far as starting young. But on top of that, I think in order for us to go out there and be able to perform, we have to be confident. It's very difficult to do something without confidence. And so it's just part of the process. We need to have that confidence in ourselves. We need to believe in ourselves to be able to go out there and perform.
And the other thing that some of the older wrestlers cited was that you guys are this awesome new generation that really seems to be like, the first group of women's wrestling that's going to make a difference. How have you seen women's wrestling grow so much over the years? And in your opinion, what else needs to happen to keep it going further into the future?
Oh my gosh, I mean, women's wrestling has grown like crazy. I started wrestling when I was 4 years old, and up until I was in middle school, I almost completely trained just with boys and competed just with boys. And as I got older, it started to grow and grow and grow. And I feel like it's made such a huge jump over the past 2-3 years. It's incredible, but I also think that we are just seeing the beginning. And I think it really has huge potential. And I think we are doing all the right things at the moment. I think what would help would be more opportunities, obviously, for women, in the media, with training, more opportunities for things like matches and things like that, just to put the women up there in front of everybody. And obviously just complete equality in the sport, right? It would be amazing just to have around the same amount of men as there are women in wrestling. I think that is the ultimate goal, and for women to have the same amount of opportunities as men do within the sport.
The Amit Elor trophy case already packed to the brim, very, very full. But I know the gold medal at the Olympics would mean a little bit more. Just emotionally, what would it mean to add that medal to your already really sterling collection of awards that you have?
I mean, winning an Olympic gold medal is my ultimate dream. It's something that I've trained for and I've thought about ever since I can remember, ever since I was that tiny little 4-year-old girl that learned about the Olympics. And I was something in me was just oh my gosh, I have to go there. I have to become an Olympian. And so I don't know. I really don't know how it would feel to be able to accomplish that, but it would just mean my world. It's my biggest life goal at the moment. And so I really hope I can go out there and achieve it.
Thanks for sitting down, Kennedy. I mean, we were just talking what a whirlwind of trials and what a big moment for you. Just catch us up since then. How's training been? How's life on the mat been? And outside, time with your family, reception from the wrestling community. How's it all been sinking in that you're going to Paris?
Yeah. Training has been tough. It's definitely been tough, but Coach Izzy's definitely pushing me in the wrestling room. It's awesome that I'm training with Izzy Style, which is the team, because sometimes it's hard to push yourself when you're just alone, but when you have a team together and you guys are all pushing, and trying to achieve the same goals. Like the guys are training for Fargo right now while I'm training for the Olympics. So, we're all just trying to win titles together. But yeah, the wrestling room, it's such an amazing place. I've had Terry Steiner's been flying in partners for me. The people that actually compete against at Olympic trials, but they're all super elite. So it's just been an amazing environment, and hanging out with family has been such a nice refresher because I haven't hung out with them too much because of school and stuff. And then just being in Chicago, being home, being with my dog and my tortoise and my family, it's just been nice. So I'm definitely ready for Paris, but just having this like small breather before going into, the deep waters is just really nice.
I know Coach Izzy's practices have to be intense because wherever he is in the arena, you could hear him screaming. So he's always bringing that energy, Coach Izzy.
Yeah.
So trials, take down a legend in the game, and you had mentioned that also someone that you have known for a long time through coaching and stuff. Just what was it like knowing that you're going to have to go toe to toe with Adeline, and then on the back end of that, have you guys had any kind of conversations or talked afterward? Or has she been involved in all since then, and as you've prepared for Paris?
Yeah, me and Adeline, we just, we're opponents now, so we don't really communicate too much. But I know, like, Terry did say if I ever need any help with, like, guidance or anything, she's there. So that's just nice to just have someone that's been at the high level for such a long time. And she's been super successful as far as the amount of titles she has. So yeah, it's just nice to still have that connection, but at the end of the day, we're Team USA. She's probably going to go to non-Olympic World Team trials. So, she'll probably make the team there. And then, so at the end of the day, like, we're all just winning titles within different categories. So whether it's Worlds, U23 Worlds, Olympics, Junior Worlds, Pan Ams, anything. It's just nice. But knowing that, like, even though I took down a legend, like, just knowing that she's up there and, like, all the girls in my weight class, like, going into Paris, it's definitely boosted my confidence a lot because all of us have a medal in some sort of category up there. So, I know that I'm definitely, it's likely I'm going to win a gold medal. But you can't just do it out of confidence. You have to do it out of hard work, good people around you, stuff like that. So I'm just glad and happy I have all of the USA Wrestling behind me, whether it's my opponents, my teammates, all of that, just supporting me in every way they can.
Yeah, and speaking of that support and some other legends, you have a slew of them on the team already, including Kayla Miracle. I mean, how cool is it to have other big names going with you to Paris and competing alongside you and marching with you in that Parade of Nations on that first day?
I mean, I remember watching Helen win the Olympics, like her very first time. And like now just thinking I'm on the same team as her is insane. I mean, it just goes to show you that, like, anyone can do it at any age. But I feel like the age was kind of holding me back at one point. But now since I've reached the age, now I can go to all these senior events and stuff. But yeah, I mean, going back to, having Helen on my team, she's a great mentor for me. She helps me with Bible studies. She helps me with, like, my faith. And then just things in life, stuff like just evolving as a woman and just, getting into that age where, like, you're still trying to figure yourself out. And then all, like, the media, all the, little small pressure stuff that comes into play with everything. She's just a great mentor, a great person, a great woman to be around. And I'm just very thankful that she's on my team. So now we both get to do this together, in Normandy and in Paris. And then at the end of the day, she's just an amazing friend. So it's just crazy that, like, I watched her on TV. I remember staying up super late because the time change, I think, where was that? I forgot. I think Tokyo. I'm not sure though. But I just remember the time change, and me and my sister were up watching on our phones, and then she won it. And now just thinking we're on the same team, it's an amazing feeling.
Yeah, you mentioned in Rio in 16, and you're not the only one. Amit also mentioned it as well. And I have a feeling that you're not the only girls in the world of wrestling that were inspired by that performance. It definitely seems like this is a new generation of women's wrestling in the United States. How does it feel to be a part of that? And do you really think this is a shifting where the U.S. is now becoming more of a superpower for women's wrestling internationally?
Yeah, we're definitely becoming a powerhouse in women's wrestling. we're probably like top 3, so we're not, we're not down there. We're definitely up there, but just now having, the next generation is insane. Like I already know my generation, we're all ready just to, win as many titles as we can. It's just a matter of time to make the team. But it's just nice that, like, me and Amit, we're kind of that representation of the younger generation to show that, like, we're, once it's their time to be done and the girls' next time, like, we're bringing in a new wave of talent. It's not just going to be, oh, okay, they're done, now we're going to fall back down. So, and then there's just the fact that these women have, this older generation kind of, like, they set a standard, but a good standard, to where, like, this is, like, I can do it too. This level, I can win a gold medal too. I can place here, I can place there. And so just, like, having that representation up there, especially once Helen won her first Olympic gold medal, like, I bet it inspired not just me, but millions of, girls that, okay, it's not impossible to win. It's possible to even beat Team Japan, because she beat the Japanese girl in the finals. And whether the girl had, I don't know, 16 titles, like, anyone can lose at any day and anyone can win at any day. So I think just having that standard, although it seems scary, it's good to have a little bit fear, because without fear, I mean, everyone can do it. So yeah.
Hearing you talk about all that, I can hear you getting fired up and getting really into it. And I guess, so I just want to end with, like, I'm sure you visualize yourself standing on top of that medal stand and having a gold medal around your neck and hearing the national anthem. What would it mean to you to walk away from Paris as an Olympic gold medalist?
I mean, it would mean so much, because I've worked most of my life, it's been 13 years, to achieve this dream. Like, everyone going into wrestling, I'm pretty sure they all want to be an Olympic gold medalist. That's like the highest of the highest thing that you can win. And so just, yeah, if I bring back that gold medal, I would just be beyond happy. But, like, it would just be an amazing reflection on, like, how much I've grown, and just seeing the support system behind me, and just understanding that, like, no matter what happens, like, if you put your faith in Christ, then anything is possible. And, that's just the main message I would love to spread around the world, because sometimes people get nervous and scared, and then they get iffy and anxiety and stuff. But, like, if you leave it in God's hand, I mean, it's whatever is meant to be will be. So I'm just really excited, and I'm doing everything I can, because I want to leave everything on the mat with zero regrets, whether it comes to sleep, eating, training, lifestyle, anything, because I know the girls that I'm going to compete against are doing the same thing. So it's just whoever wants it more at the end of the day.
All right, Dominique, well, thanks for joining us. Just catch us up since trials, not just on the mat and how training's been going, but also just any celebrations with friends and family. How's the reception been, not just within USA Wrestling, but also in the wrestling community as a whole, now that you're on your way to Paris?
I mean, I feel like everybody is, like, not excited at all, so that's been really disappointing. I'm just kidding, but no, everybody's really excited. And after Olympic trials, I went home to Corvallis and just kind of chilled out for a week, because I knew that going into this summer it was going to be a lot, just traveling back and forth. And so I did a couple weeks in Corvallis just training, and then I went out to Tempe and was training out of Valiant High School there. And then I had a competition in Warsaw, Poland. And then I was at the OTC for a week, and then Corvallis for a week. And now I'm back here for a week.
You seem to have, like, a really, fun kind of light outlook on things, which I'm sure goes a long way in wrestling, which is a sport that can really grind and wear you out. Was that something that, you kind of had to learn to embrace over time, or have you just always been like that as a wrestler, trying to enjoy the moment?
I think as a person, I've always been that way. I'm a middle child, so I feel like anything to get attention, good or bad, is a useful skill. But I think definitely, like, with wrestling, I've had to work at it. I know in high school, I had some anxiety going into my senior year. I just feel like putting expectations on myself. And sometimes, like, in college, and I don't know, like you said, wrestling's a grind sometimes, and brutal sport. And I think the more fun you can make it, the more fun it is. So that's, I feel like, what I've been trying to do. And it is more fun.
You had a monster 2022 on the international stage, probably arguably your best year. How much of what we're talking about now played into that, and what lessons did you learn from that awesome season of yours that you're hoping to bring with you into your first Olympics?
Yeah, that year was so fun. I had just moved and was in like a big group of women, and we were all training together. We were all friends. And I feel like something I've said before is that, like, wrestling's cool because you become friends with all your teammates, and then you just go into practice, you beat the crap out of each other, and try not to have any hard feelings about it. But I think that really served me well, like wrestling and just being excited to like go into the room and practice and go to competitions and just not feel that pressure to I don't even know, like, wrestle well, because that never is helpful. I feel like going into a competition and looking to like have fun and like try your moves that you've been working on, and especially going into the Olympics, because there's going to be, I feel like, so much pressure from everyone, but especially like myself. Just take it one match at a time. Like even before the matches, just like warm up and like, do what I need to do. It's like a procedure now, so I feel like that really takes the pressure off of it.
So Monster 2022, it might be your first Olympics, but you've been on a mainstay on the team for some time now. Who are some of your closest training partners or friends on the USA wrestling team? Maybe not just from Paris, but in Tokyo or previously as well.
Definitely Helen Maroulis, Kayla Miracle. I mean, I feel like I'm friends with everyone. I have no beef. I'm not good at at making or starting or maintaining beef. Abby Nettie is a good friend of mine. Definitely, I don't know. I get along with everyone. I feel like I like to talk with everyone and see what they're up to. And I feel like, yeah, people are interested in like what I'm up to. It's a good, really, I feel like, dynamic for Team USA right now.
Correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think you're in Tokyo as a training partner, right? Like, so you weren't competing.
Was, yeah.
Okay. So, and that was with Jakara, correct?
Mm-hmm.
So tell us a little bit about that experience. It's your first time competing, but you've been here before in a way. You kind of know the process. This is a little bit of familiarity there. How was Tokyo for you in that way, and what lessons from that are you taking with you into your first games?
Yeah, so I feel like Tokyo is kind of an emotional dumpster fire, but it was good to get that out there. It was just tough because it was COVID, and we were locked down in the Japanese countryside, which I feel like doesn't sound so bad, but we were there for like 2-3 weeks and could go work out and go outside like for like an hour during the day. But then when we got to Tokyo, like it was cool, like going in and like as a training partner, like seeing basically like what the Olympics are, which is, it's a tournament. It's like any other tournament. And I am very grateful that I had that experience then, even though like that wasn't what I like originally had planned or like wanted for myself. But I think it was invaluable. And going into these Olympic Games, I think just puts everything into perspective that yes, it's like the Olympics, and yes, it's a big deal. There's a lot of pressure, but it's just a tournament. It runs the same.
One of the so one of 3 first timers. The other 2 a little bit on the younger side, very young, early 20s. Have they ever come to you for any advice or any guidance as far as this whole international wrestling process or Olympic process?
No, I feel like the younger 2 girls on the team are just as decorated as any of the other women on the team, even though they're young. I mean, Amit Elor and Kennedy Blaze, both the world champions in age group, and Amit in seniors. So I think everyone really has like their process down. And for me, I feel like it's comforting to look around at what my other teammates are doing and compared to what I'm doing, and just seeing that, yeah, it's like getting ready for like any world championship. And any tournament, really.
It's really funny that you answered it that way, because I asked Kayla and Sarah the same thing about Amit and Blades, and they're like, "Are you kidding me? Like, they don't need advice. They're on their world
I was like, should I be asking them advice?
It's just really, it's just so interesting because 10 years ago, if we look at the state of women's wrestling, I don't think you get that answer from newcomers. The depth wasn't there, and now all of a sudden we're talking about kids coming up in their 20s and are already world champions. What, in your opinion, seeing the sport grow so much, have been the key factors in getting women's wrestling to this point? And then also, what needs to happen to make sure it goes even further in the future?
Well, I feel like the biggest thing is just having like state sanctioned tournaments, and we're getting there. Like we almost have it in like all 50 states, and that just really allows like a pathway for like these girls in high school to come up and know that there's a place for them to compete. I feel like being in a state where you're like, oh, like I could wrestle, but like there's really like no like end goal for me. Like I could go wrestle like at a couple tournaments and it's fun and I like it, but I like there's no state tournament for me to wrestle in unless it's like the guys, and then some of the tournaments I feel like, or some of the states I feel like wouldn't allow women to wrestle. So it's Field of Dreams, you know, build it and they will come. I think that, and then beyond that is creating like college programs for girls to go to, especially since now we have almost all 50 state sanctioned. Like those girls need to have the opportunities to go and compete in college and get those matches and hopefully get some of their school paid for and just be around like other women in a team setting. Like that is, I feel like, such a invaluable experience or valuable experience. And then I feel like post that is creating like opportunities for women to wrestle like post college, because there's a couple RTCs now, one in Phoenix, but I'm not really sure what's happening with that one because Sunkist is going to be done after this year, and there's obviously the Olympic Training Center, and then there's Oregon State where I'm at, but beyond that, like there's not really college programs with RTCs attached that are inviting women in and willing to pay for them and coach them. And that's huge. I feel like, where are these women going to go and train? How are they going to make money so that they can train?
We look back to that 2016 year, and a lot of people, like I said, credit that with this explosion of women's wrestling. And a big part of that was Helen's win over Sarah Yoshida. This gap between Japan and the U.S. quickly closing, if not right there neck and neck over the last few years. What do you make of the rivalry between the U.S. and Japan? Is it overplayed, or is it important to the growth of the sport in this country? And what does the U.S. need to do to kind of get the upper hand there internationally, starting right here in Paris?
I mean, I feel like the rivalry is really healthy. I think like in any situations, it's nice to have a rival, someone to like push yourself against. I'm not really sure. I think that just having, like, you look at Japan, they have depth, like each weight class, you know, each year there'll be like a gold medalist, and then the next year they'll be beaten by like 17-year-old who goes on to then win a Olympic gold medal. And I think, like you said, we're like getting there, where look at like Amit and Kennedy, like these young girls coming up, beating Olympians and world champions and taking the spot and stepping out on the mat and being competitive. I think at the lighter weights, like we're closing in too.
Don't miss these wrestlers compete with the best of the best in their quest for gold. The Olympic Games return live from Paris on NBC and Peacock. It all starts Friday, July 26th. And that'll do it for this edition of Octagon Circles and Squares. Stay tuned to this channel as we continue the rest of our episodes to catch up with the rest of the United States Olympic team. Thanks. We'll see you then.